Welcome into the Radiopaedia reading room for a special day one of Radiopaedia 2023 episode. My name is Andrew Dixon, and joining me, part-time radiologist, full-time mixologist, and caprinologist, it's my co-host Frank Gaylard. How you
What
doing,
on
mate?
earth is a caprinologist, Dixon?
Can't work that one out. Well, you know what a mixologist is, don't you?
Yes. I am well aware of what a
Yes.
mixologist
That's
is.
you 7 days a week. No, a caprinologist is an expert on goats.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
like an
Got it.
equinologist would be on
Yeah,
horses,
yeah,
but
yeah, of
yeah, a
course.
caprinologist.
Well, that sounds better than, say, a peeveologist or a whingeologist.
Indeed. Now, first-time podcast listeners will be lost with all this talk of goats right now. They won't understand, but I'll explain all in a moment. But first, big welcome to everyone who's listening to this at the conference. This is going to be, kind of like your audio guide to help you get the most out of your day one at the conference. We'll review what's happening. We'll pick out some of our top recommendations, to top lectures and sessions, and most importantly, we'll introduce you to the official day one cocktail of the day.
This is what I'm looking forward to the most.
You might be wondering why we even have a cocktail of the day for a radiology conference. And to be honest, Gaylord, I'm not 100% sure myself. I've kind of forgotten how it came about. But anyway, we've got one. So that's exciting. And to explain the goat thing, we somehow coined this term pet goat on the podcast, which is why I've called him a caprinologist. So pet goats are, for reasons, again, I won't go into, they're what we call pet peeves on the podcast. And Frank usually feels the need to get one or two off of his chest every episode. It's kind of like therapy for him.
It
So please,
is,
if you're
absolutely.
listening to this podcast for the first time at the conference, just oblige him. Let him get one goat off his chest today. So, yeah, this is day one of Radiopaedia 2023. Gaylord, you must feel like a bit of a pig in mud because today is Neuroradiology and Head and Neck Imaging.
Neuroradiology, gin-based mixed drinks, and a few complaints are pretty much all I need to get me through the day. And I think, realistically, it's only fitting that our conference starts with the most interesting subspecialties first. No bias here whatsoever, but
Not at
we all
all,
know
no.
it's true, right? We're all aspiring neuroradiologists deep down.
So today at the conference, we have two head and neck radiology sessions. One is an advanced session to kick off the conference, and one is pitched at a more general level. We also have two neuroradiology sessions, again, one advanced and one general. There's an interactive neurovascular case workshop that involves you, Gaylard,
Mm-hmm.
and there's also an educational R poster session featuring neuroradiology and head and neck posters.
Indeed, but before we get into the recommendations, can I do the
Mm-hmm.
cocktail of the day
Oh,
first?
yeah.
Because that's actually what I'm excited. So for the real cocktail drinkers out there, can anyone pick the drink from the sound? So today's drink is a Montenegroni, which is a variant on one of my very favorite drinks, a Negroni. So a Negroni is traditionally equal parts gin, vermouth di Torino, and Campari. But I generally like to increase the gin. That's pretty much for every drink. Increase the gin and reduce the Campari. But even better is you can swap the Campari for other Italian aromatic bitters.
Mm-hmm.
And Montenegro is one such drink. It's not as red or as bitter as Campari. It's a more sort of rounded flavor. So ideally, if you're doing this properly, you should probably stir this over ice and then strain it into a glass. But if you're in a hurry or lazy, or you're planning to have,
That's
3 or
me.
4 of them in a row, you can just build this directly into the glass. So the way I do this is I put a 5 centimeter cube of ice in a lowball glass.
Yep.
And then add a fluid ounce of gin. What's a
Yep.
fluid ounce? It's like 30 mils, something like
Yeah,
that.
I think so. I've got a round ice block, like a spherical one. Is that wrong?
No, that's pretty good too.
Okay.
That's
All
pretty
right.
good.
Sorry, I was worried for a second there.
As long as it's big, no
Okay. Yeah,
little
it's
ones.
big. Oh, it's big.
And in terms of the exact amounts, it really doesn't matter the exact amounts. It's more about the ratios anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So then you put an equal amount of vermouth di Torino, which is a dark, aromatic, slightly sweet red wine,
Mm-hmm.
and then half an ounce of Montenegro. You can add a few dashes of orange bitters on top if you like. Give it all a stir and then garnish with an orange twist. Or, if you're so inclined, a Luxardo Maraschino cherry, which are delicious.
Ooh la
They're
la.
very good. Now, don't skimp on the cherries. You can get those horrible bright red ones that are horrible.
Mm-hmm.
They're no good.
You
You
got to
want
get
to
the
go
fancy ones.
a good one. And similarly, you really don't want to skimp on the vermouth because a terrible vermouth is going to ruin the drink. You can skimp on the gin, like Eddie Gordon's gin or something will be
Yeah.
fine.
So
But
you just need the spirit from the gin mainly.
that's right. We should also make sure we include zero alcohol versions.
I mean, not for ourselves, but for some of our listeners, yeah.
So there's a cute little word to describe a Negroni that has no alcohol, and it's a Natgroni, no alcohol groni.
Oh, yeah. N-A, Grony, yep.
And a lot of these virgin cocktails were really hard in the past, but now you can get zero alcohol gins that don't taste terrible and non-alcoholic aperitifs. I've got a bottle of Lucano Amaro, which is another Italian bitters, and they come out with a zero alcohol one. And that's what the boys use when they want to have a drink with me instead of the real thing. But it won't taste exactly the same, but the fun of these drinks is mixing and matching all the different ingredients to find ones that you like. You mentioned the idea of pet goats. So if we want to get the ball rolling, I sort of hinted at that before, but this is a cocktail-related goat.
Okay, go for it.
If I go out and order a Negroni at a bar or at a restaurant and they serve it to me with a whole bunch of those horrible machine-made tubular ice cubes in the bottom, that drives me crazy. Not because it's like it looks ugly, which it does, but those ice cubes melt so quickly. So you just end up with this watery, slushy mush at the bottom of your glass.
Unless you drink extra quickly.
You have to drink extra quickly, but that's not fun either.
No.
Or at least not by the time you've done that 3 or 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
I've got some 5 centimeter cubes at home, just so you get silicon molds on Amazon. They're great. They keep the drink cool. You don't have to rush through it. It's perfect. So for all you restaurant and bar owners that are listening to this podcast, because I'm sure there's a lot, get with the program. Big cubes. It's not
big
that
ice.
hard.
Big chiseled ice. Okay, well, we better get to actual recommendations for day one of the conference, Frank, so that people can actually head off, start getting into it, mix their drink, and actually start watching.
Sorry, I forgot that's what this was about.
Have you got something, a lecture or a session that you specifically want to highlight from today?
I mean, a lot of them are very, very good. But the older I get, the more I gravitate towards clinical problem-oriented lectures rather than those that are just primarily about imaging itself. I think that's really important because I think as radiology grows up, it'll be more about integrating imaging with the clinical presentation. So coming at imaging from that perspective is really important. Based on that, I think you can't go past the imaging approach to otalgia by Jennifer Gillespie. It's a narrow topic, it's in the advanced session because most people in there will already have an overview, but that was really good. What about you?
So I'm involved in 3 out of 6 sessions today, Frank. So it's actually quite hard for me to pick something that I'm not in. So the general head and neck session with Dan Gewolb, Tabby Kennedy, and Derek Smith is great. I really enjoyed recording the panel discussion for that one, and I've got a couple of great live cases to show during that one. So if you're just getting started in radiology training, or if you find head and neck radiology difficult, then definitely check out that session. There's a bit of deep neck spaces. There's an approach to CT neck and a cervical lymph node assessment. It's also hard to go past the advanced head and neck session. You've already mentioned it. So it's got Jen Gillespie in it talking about otalgia, but also Christine Glastonbury talking about perineural tumor spread, and Jenny Hoang giving an update on temporal bone lesions, kind of a simplified approach to that. So that's worth checking out. And then the poster session for today is excellent. The quality of the submissions and the format is kind of even better than I hoped when we were devising it.
Yep, no, they're amazing.
The way you can click through them, see all the images in really high detail. It's not like a PowerPoint presentation. These look fantastic. So definitely check those out. And then the advanced neuroradiology session to end the day today, a really long session, but a phenomenal session. So it's got a lecture from Lea Alhilali, Tilak Das, Francis Deng, and Rohit Sharma. So they're covering post-treatment imaging of brain tumours, diseases of the meninges, and cerebral small vessel diseases. And a special shout out to Rohit Sharma, because he's not a radiologist. He's a neurology trainee and one of our Radiopaedia editors. And he's done this nice little 10 to 15 minute addition at the end of Francis's lecture on cerebral small vessel diseases, giving a really awesome kind of clinical perspective.
Yeah, I think that's so important to include that clinical perspective more and more.
Yeah, so it's fantastic to have that. So in summary, you can't go wrong wherever you turn on day one at Radiopaedia 2023. It's all good because it's all neuroradiology and head and neck.
Absolutely. And I have to say, I mean, I know I'm extremely biased, but the more I see of the quality of the lectures and the panels of our conference and the speakers who we choose primarily on the basis of how good they are at educating, not because they have the word professor in front of their name necessarily.
Yeah.
And the more I'm blown away by how good these educators are, not just in absolute terms, but also compared to every other conference out there.
Yeah.
So I'm so thrilled to kick this off today.
Now, I should also mention that every day one lecture is available on demand from the very start of today. So you can actually start heading off and looking at anything you want, even if it hasn't played on the live stream page yet. But the panel discussion replays and the R posters for day one will be available to view on demand tomorrow. Okay, so once the live sessions for those have played, then they'll be available at the start of day two. So don't stress if you can't catch all the sessions or even the workshop live. It's fun to watch along and chat with delegates and speakers on the live stream page, but we have designed the conference so that all of the features work on replay. So you'll be able to look at the scrollable cases and all those kind of things, even the interactive review questions. So yeah, don't feel like you're missing out if you can't attend one of the live sessions.
No, it would be impossible to do it all. I mean, you need to get at least, 1 or 2 hours of sleep a day, right, Dixon?
Impossible for anyone except Vikas Shah. All right, well, let's finish off these Montenegronis that we've poured ourselves here and go and check out day one of Radiopaedia 2023. Just quickly, Frank, to wrap things up, how can people get in contact with us?
Well, we're at Radiopaedia on Twitter and Instagram, as well as at Frank Gaylard and at Dr. Andrew Dixon. And you can also email us at podcast@radiopaedia.org with any ideas or feedback.
You can try and tweet us if you haven't reached your Twitter limit for the day, or you can just jump on the live stream page, actually, and no doubt you'll find Frank and myself there at some time throughout the day, and we'll love to have a chat with you.
And if you're listening and you haven't yet registered for the conference, then you know there's still time. You can register up to the end of day 5, which is this Friday, the 28th of July.
That's the one.
We really do rely upon everyone supporting the conference in order for us to give free registration to people in 125 low and middle income countries. So do please come along and join us online. And, you know, if you know someone who hasn't registered, but you think they might be interested, then make sure you let them know as well.
Yep, mix them a drink and invite them to come along. And what else can people do to help us out, Frank?
And of course, you can also leave us a 5-star review in the podcast app of your choosing.
Yes, excellent. And I'll do the little sign off here, and we'll catch you all again sometime. I usually say soon, but sometime tomorrow in the reading room for day 2 of the conference. Have a great virtual day out there, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow, Gaylard.
See you tomorrow, and don't forget, stay rad, and catch you in the live sessions.
Stay rad. Mate, that was a pathetic one. Come on, give me a good one.
Stay rad!
Yes. Enjoy day 1, Gaylard. See you on the chat, mate.
Bye-bye.